SCP-AAY, codename the Tyrant Virus. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-AAY samples are kept within 10 vials, all stored within a biohazard containment case. The containment case is stored within a biohazard storage area of Site AA. The biohazard storage area is constantly guarded by 20 AFA-1 units within and 2 AFA-2 units guarding the entrance. Any testing must be approved by at least one Level 4 clearance staff member or higher. Any SCP-AAY variants created during testing is to be terminated after testing has concluded. Any exceptions must be approved by at least 5 Level 5 clearance staff members or by the approval of at least one O5 council member. Any accidental infection must be treated with the antivirus within 24 hours, otherwise the host is to be executed. There are no exceptions. Description: SCP-AAY is a highly mutagenic and lethal virus with several dangerous properties. Unlike all other pathogens, SCP-AAY can infect even the dead, turning them into SCP-AAY-1 instances. SCP-AAY-1 instances are transformed hosts of the virus, either starting off dead or becoming infected while living and dying due to infection. The result is a human with visibly rotting flesh, inactive brain activity leading to a lack of motor function, unyielding aggression, and an endless hunger for non-infected flesh. SCP-AAY-1 instances are quite similar to victims of SCP-008. However, unlike SCP-008, its effects are not limited to humans. SCP-AAY-2 instances are animals such as dogs, birds, monkeys, and other mammals that have been infected with SCP-AAY during life or death. SCP-AAY-2 instances are similar to their SCP-AAY-1 counterparts in that they are undead. However, SCP-AAY-2 instances retain a majority of their initial motor functions, meaning they are just as agile and coordinated as when they were living. This has made them extremely dangerous and able to spread infection through bites and scratches more easily than their SCP-AAY-1 counterparts. Unfortunately, the virus takes a more drastic effect when infection occurs within bugs. SCP-AAY-3 instances are insects, arachnids, certain reptiles, and even a few mammal species that have been infected with SCP-AAY. This strain of infection leads to enlarged size, increased aggression, and hunger for non-infected, as well as increased sense for those that are not infected. Unlike their SCP-AAY-1 and SCP-AAY-2 counterparts, their bodies do not rot, but instead their cells replicate rapidly to accommodate for their sudden growth. There seems to be no consistent measurements to their size. The closest consistency that has been observed is that SCP-AAY-3 instances that work in groups only grow anywhere from 1 to 4 meters. Meanwhile, instances that are more isolated can grow up to 18 meters in size. As stated before, SCP-AAY-3 instances are typically limited to infected insects and arachnids, though certain reptiles and mammals can become SCP-AAY-3 instances after infection as well. Why this is the case is unknown. SCP-AAY-4 instances are plants infected with SCP-AAY. Unfortunately, SCP-AAY-4 instances are the most unique of all organisms infected with SCP-AAY, in that infected hosts rarely, if ever, have any consistent characteristics. Some grow extremely large and sprout vines that act as tentacles. Some become humanoid or even insect-like, while others start to grow like wildvine to cover as much area as possible. Any of these instances can infect humans to create plant-like hybrid monsters, quite similar to SCP-AAY-1 instances, despite their added resilience. The working theory for all the variations is that different species of plants is what causes the different mutations, and therefore different SCP-AAY-4 instances. SCP-AAY-5 instances are actually not naturally occurring mutations of infection. Instead, they are the results of experiments conducted by Group of Interest, the Umbrella Corporation. These instances are made for the sole purpose of being bioweapons for the company. It's actually because of SCP-AAY-5 instances that the Foundation coined the term Weaponized Viral Anomalies, or WVA for short. SCP-AAY-5 are a subcategory with the most variations and considered the most dangerous. SCP-AAY-6 is quite possibly the first natural mutation of SCP-AAY. Ironic, considering it's the last variation discovered. SCP-AAY-6 only happens when leeches are infected by SCP-AAY. The result is the infected leeches fusing together and turning into a giant leech monstrosity. This creature is able to breed hundreds of leeches at any given moment and can control them through a hive mind. SCP-AAY-6 leeches have two basic abilities. The first is direct infection of SCP-AAY. The second ability allows them to stick together and shift into any shape and change appearance with amazing accuracy. The only recorded instance of this happening was when they joined together to resemble the person of interest, Dr. Marcus. Because there has only ever been one SCP-AAY-6 creature in existence, it is unknown if there are other possible abilities or variations of the instance. SCP-AAY was discovered in 1998 when a train was attacked by leeches created by SCP-AAY-6. Though, at the time, the Foundation knew nothing of the situation and discovered the incident entirely by accident. A Foundation operative who had the unfortunate timing of being on the train managed to set out a message in Morse code stating, "Anomalous leeches killing everyone. Send help." Due to the message including the word leeches, Mobile Task Force Lambda 12 Pest Control was deployed to find and contain the anomalous parasites. However, upon arrival, Lambda 12 forces instead encountered SCP-AAY-1 instances, severely complicating the situation. As the Lambda 12 forces suffered casualties, they had no choice but to fight alongside Rebecca Chambers and Billy Cohen. Please see Addendum X7 for details. Because of the incident, Foundation staff assigned to Raccoon City recalled disappearances around a mansion where the Raccoon City stars were going to investigate. The Foundation had to do its own investigation in order to see if there was a pattern and if such a pattern led back to the Umbrella Corporation. As such, Mobile Task Force Beta 7 Maz Hatters was sent to the mansion to investigate and contain any possible SCP-AAY variants. Please see Addendum X11 for details. Thankfully, both missions ended in success, albeit with heavy loss. SCP-AAY samples were extracted and sent back to the Foundation. Initial testing has shown that the virus is extremely adaptive to any and all medicine used to treat the host. Furthermore, SCP-AAY was discovered to have the unusual property of being able to fuse with other pathogens to create an entirely new pathogen. It is for this reason SCP-AAY is considered a Level 4 biohazard threat. Because of the threat they posed by creating SCP-AAY, Foundation forces were deployed to dismantle the Umbrella Corporation. However, before Umbrella could be destroyed, Raccoon City, their main city of operations, spontaneously became under attack by an outbreak of SCP-AAY, along with SCP. This disaster scattered Foundation forces, forcing those that could escape to do so as fast as possible. Those trapped in the city had no choice but to team up with local survivors to escape. Please see Addendum X8 for details. Despite recently being promoted to level clearance, Dr. Wicked insisted on helping with the evacuation effort. This led to his encounter with SCP, as well as person of interest, Jill Valentine. Please see Addendum X12 for details. SCP-ABE. Codename, the Golgotha Virus. Object Class, Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. Samples of SCP-ABE are contained in 6 separate vials placed within the biohazard box and stored in the biohazard storage area of Site-AO. The biohazard box is stored within a freezer locked by a 6-digit passcode. Hidden inside the freezer is a necrosis venom gas bomb that will detonate if the wrong passcode is entered. The vials are sealed tight enough to protect the samples, but whoever tries to steal them will be unable to survive the necrosis gas. This trap is also to be relied on during containment breaches. Any testing with SCP-ABE must be approved by at least 3 Level 5 clearance staff members or the Director of Site AO. Description: SCP-ABE is a highly mutagenic virus that is much more volatile than its predecessor SCP-AAY, both of which were created from the same progenitor. Once SCP-ABE has infected a host, whether dead or alive, they will begin to mutate almost immediately. Once a host has been infected, they will not suffer necrosis like hosts of SCP-AAY. Instead, they will suffer major mutations with no signs of stopping. Infected hosts are to be known as SCP-ABE-Alpha. During the first stage of infection, the host still retains memories of who they are, but their movement becomes jagged and their minds clouded. Even during the first stage of infection, the SCP-ABE-Alpha host will have incredible regenerative abilities and strength. However, as the SCP-ABE-Alpha host sustains damage, the mutations will progress faster and faster. The second stage of infection for an SCP-ABE-Alpha host is the most damaged part of the body, typically a limb like the arm, growing in mass and developing a mutant eye. This stage of infection typically lasts the longest, and unfortunately is the most stable. After this stage, mutations will occur faster, and any form of damage will only make things worse. Once the SCP-ABE-Alpha host has sustained a certain amount of damage or lived for a certain period of time, it will start to mutate into its third stage, where it will use the biomass of its old body to start to grow itself a newer and larger body. This new body will lose most, if not all, of its previous humanity, as the body starts shifting, changing, and growing. Either in this stage or the next one, the head of the host will be absorbed as a brand new head grows. The resulting new form is much stronger and faster, as well as flexible, almost as if it's an entirely new organism. During this stage, the SCP-ABE-Alpha host will be completely taken over by a desire of reproduction and consumption. If an SCP-ABE-Alpha host continues to live for an extended period, or receives extreme amounts of damage, it will start to mutate even further into more feral forms to resist and combat all potential and current dangers. From this point on, the mutations will only grow more random and vicious until the SCP-ABE-Alpha host becomes an ever-growing gelatinous mass of mutated flesh. At this point, the only way to kill it is to completely incinerate every cell in the body. High-yield explosives and acid have yielded the best results. As stated before, SCP-ABE-Alpha hosts will be driven by the desire to consume and infect others regardless of which stage of infection they are in. However, infection is much more volatile when transmitted from an SCP-ABE-Alpha host and not the SCP-ABE virus. Instead, when SCP-ABE-Alpha host infects a human, they will start to grow parasitic cells in their body that greatly resemble cancer growths. This is known as the development stage of SCP-ABE-Beta infection. When a host is infected with SCP-ABE-Beta, they will visibly become sicker as their skin starts to pale and one of their eyes will become red, with vein-like growths spreading over their face. Normally, after 1 to 5 hours of infection, their internal organs will start to break down rapidly as they are devoured by the cancerous parasite inside them, known as the SCP-ABE-Beta instance. Once it has reached the correct size within the 1 to 5 hours, it will burst out of the stomach of the host and quickly retreat to any area that is secure and/or a wet environment. This is known as the birth of an SCP-ABE-Beta child. Once an SCP-ABE-Beta child has found the right environment, it will start to grow freely into its adult form. An SCP-ABE-Beta adult typically takes the appearance of a gigantic, semi-humanoid monster with cancerous and uneven proportions all over the body. When left alone, the SCP-ABE-Beta adult will create nests out of biomass, where they sleep, wait for prey, and asexually breed more SCP-ABE-Beta child instances. DNA testing has shown that SCP-ABE-Beta infection is the result of incompatible DNA between the beta host and the alpha host. The only way to counter this flaw is for the alpha host to find a blood relative to infect. If an SCP-ABE alpha host is able to infect a blood relative, whether it be a distant family member or even their own child, the host will become sick like with an SCP-ABE beta infection, but the result will lead to an entirely new organism. Like an SCP-ABE beta child, this new organism will burst out of the host. However, it has no infant form as it is already an adult upon birth. The body structure will resemble the gender of the host, but be covered entirely with pure white flesh, with no visible eyes, ears, hair, mouth, nails, nipples, anus, or genitals. Instead, the sole physical characteristics of this new organism will be the random pulsating red veins all over the body. These new organisms are nothing like their predecessors and are to be known as SCP-ABE Omega instances. SCP-ABE Omega instances are essentially apex predators. They are fast learners, being able to gain vast intelligence only moments after birth. Furthermore, they can control the mutations within their body, able to instantaneously adapt and combat any threat they come across. SCP-ABE Omega was only discovered after testing SCP-ABE at Site-AO. It was quickly declared that during any new testing, no SCP-ABE Omega instance should live for any longer than a single day due to the incident during testing at Site-AO. Please see Addendum X-15 for details. SCP-ABE was discovered in 1988 when Foundation forces were moving into the now-destroyed city for Operation Acid Rain. The purpose was to take down and obtain all anomalous items owned by Group of Interest, the Umbrella Corporation. However, internal conflict within the main building owned by the Group of Interest caused SCP-AAY and SCP-ABE to spread into the city. Furthermore, as the chaos grew, the Umbrella Corporation unleashed its private military and several SCP-AAY-5 instances, leading to an all-out war between the Foundation and the Umbrella Corporation. Please see Addendum X-8 and Addendum X-12 for details. SCP-ABH. Codename Umbrella's Superweapon. Object Class Neutralized. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-ABH was neutralized with the destruction of the city. The only reason the Foundation is even aware of SCP-ABH is thanks to Dr. personal recordings, as well as the few reports from surviving Foundation agents and MTF units. Please see Addendum X-12 for details. Description: SCP-ABH is a unique variant of SCP-AAY-5 that has not only been heavily mutated, but genetically altered by a Group of Interest, the Umbrella Corporation. One of the main alterations is the insertion of a particular parasite known as the NE-alpha parasite. This parasite is essentially a part of SCP-ABH and is what makes the anomaly separate from every SCP-AAY-5 instance of similar structure. The parasite was created by the Umbrella Corporation by unknown means, though thankfully it seems the knowledge to replicate it has been lost. Because of its mutations, SCP-ABH is able to extend tentacles from anywhere out of its body, though it seems to prefer the arms. However, upon discovery, SCP-ABH was coated in a protective suit that acted as its armor while also keeping its body stable. As it sustained damage, the armor deteriorated, not only allowing it to use its tentacles more often, but its body also started to mutate in response. Quite similar to a host of SCP-ABE, SCP-ABH is able to mutate rapidly depending on the amount of damage it receives. However, SCP-ABH is much more durable, as fire only temporarily disorients the anomaly, and acid just forces it to adapt faster and into more unstable mutations. Similar to other weaponized viral anomalies created by the Umbrella Corporation, SCP-ABH was genetically given orders and obeyed them with every fiber of its being. The orders given to SCP-ABH was to kill all members of the STARS police unit. Why this was done is unknown. It should also be noted that SCP-ABH is intelligent enough to use weapons around it, and during its rampage through city, it was equipped with several weapons provided by the Umbrella Corporation. Though as its body started to mutate more and more, SCP-ABH started relying less on the weapons and more on its own body strength and mutations. Though no matter how much it mutated, the anomaly never forgot its orders. Because SCP-ABH's base DNA contains SCP-AAY, it has the ability to mutate any SCP-AAY-1 instance it comes across with a parasite, transforming them into an SCP-ABH-1 instance. SCP-ABH-1 instances are similar to normal zombies, but have large parasitic monstrosities on their heads, with large whip-like appendages on the top, which it uses as a weapon. Because they were created from the parasite within SCP-ABH, they have inherited the same orders and thus act as expendable foot soldiers for the WVA. Their whip-like appendage moves extremely fast and hits distant targets with great accuracy. They also possess great durability, making them much harder to kill. SCP-ABH was discovered in 1998, on the same day SCP-ABE was discovered, and when the outbreak of SCP-AAY occurred. Dr. ended up traveling with a woman named leading to his encounter with SCP-ABH. This all took place during the initial evacuation of the city, which failed after the sudden outbreak of all three anomalies, which only furthered the chaos within the city. Please see Addendum X-12 for details.